Welcome back to a boat called Wanda. So last week I finished up with getting all of the top skin of the deck taken off, all of the core removed, and all of the bottom skin ground back and prepared for some core to be laid. So this week I'm really looking forward to getting up on deck and putting that core down. So the first thing I'm going to do, which I plan to do today, is to bevel out all of those edges of the top skin around the openings that I've taken out. Now for that I'm going to start off by using my belt sander. Even though it's pretty heavy and clunky, it gives me a nice big rectangular area to bevel out that 12:1 ratio. So if I just sort of hold that in a few places around the deck, I should get a fairly consistent bevel. So let's start with that. Okay, well I'm into day 3 of beveling back all of the edges on the deck in preparation for me to do the laying of the core and then the laminating. And it's very slow going. I've probably spent about 10 to 12 hours so far. So far I'm happy with the work that I'm doing. I think it's looking okay, but it's just incredibly slow because this is the first time really that I've done any serious fiberglass repair work just completely on my own. So before, when I did all the structural work inside, basically the contractor Anthony took the lead on that, and I was just sort of working around the sides. Whereas this time it's all me, so I'm a little bit more nervous and I'm taking my time to do it. But it should be okay. On the good side, I'm working with gravity. This is just sort of laying fiberglass horizontally, which is a lot easier than trying to lay it vertically. And the curvature of the deck is quite gentle. It's even flat in some parts, so you know, they're all the positives. But essentially this is the slow part of the job. The preparation is always the longest part and probably accounts for about 90–95% of the work. Okay, well I'll show you a little bit of footage now of the process that I'm following so that you can see what I've been up to for the last couple of days. So the deck is 5 mils thick and I need to take off 4 mils over a feathered edge of about 50 to 60 millimeters. So my edge should be about 1 millimeter. Now the way I'm doing this is first I measure out the area to feather back, which is about 60 mil around all of these sides. Now the first step I do is roughly mark out 3 sections because I want to divide that area into 3 pieces. Now each piece should be responsible for taking about 1 1/3 mil off to give me a total of a 4 mil area that I'm cutting out over this gradient. So the first of those 3 sections that I take out is the one that's closest to the edge. So with this one it's just a matter of taking down on a fairly straight level 4 mils to give me a 1 mil lip left, and I can measure that with a caliper. Once that's done, I can then move to the second section, and this second section needs to have a ridge of about 1 1/3 mil higher than that lip that I've just taken out. So it's just a matter of trying to get this down and again trying to be fairly flat about it to keep it parallel with the curvature of the deck. Once I've got my 3 steps here, then it's just a matter of trying to smooth them out to get a fairly consistent curve or bevel between these 3 different sections of different thickness. And that's a process I've been following. It's quite time consuming and I'm trying to do that as evenly as I can. Obviously the more even bevel I get, the more likely it is that the layers of laminate will stack up nicely and won't leave me with any nasty ridges or bumps that require more sanding than required afterwards. Obviously the flatter I can get it, then the less amount of fairing I need to do, which means ultimately less time later on in preparation for paint. Okay, well I'm going to crack on with it. I'm giving myself a target of about 3 to 4 of those large sections a day, so 7 hours of grinding, having the suit on and being pretty miserable, but hey, it's got to be done. Well, it's everybody's favourite part of the segment. It's unwrap the new tool. So if you're wondering what could I possibly have bought now, well, let me show you. And this is actually something that I've been planning on getting for most of the time in this project, maybe 4 months. finally it was time to do it because I need something specifically like this. So let's have a look. Right, so we have some 30mm wide sanding belts. Ah, bugger. And some 9mm, which is wrong. I was meant to get two 30mm, so it's like cock up there. But obviously, it's a 30mm belt for a 30mm belt sander. And this time, because it's something I'm going to use for a long time, I've actually went out and got a Makita to add to my Makita family of tools, which I really like. So far, everything that I've bought from them has been excellent. Too much excitement. Right, there we go. Wow, she's heavy. Now, the reason I started to think about this a while ago is inside in the cabin there's quite a little bit of more tapping to do, and there's some through holes which I need to take out and put a new backing plate back in place. Because the grinder makes dust just go everywhere, the belt sander's a lot more controlled way of getting rid of flow coat in a confined space and getting some of it into a vacuum at least. So that was the first reason why I was thinking of buying this. The second reason is up on deck I've got those strips that I'm going to tie the top and bottom skin together. They're cut to about 60mm wide, so I'm hoping that this will be the perfect tool to get down into there to get the remainder of that foam off. And finally, this radius here should be perfect for that toe rail repair I need to do, where I need to grind back the old laminate right around that radius of the toe rail. So I'm going to get back to work and start using this now. Okay, well I think I'll leave the update at this point, and apologies for it being a very short video for this week. There's been a lot of work done, but there's not a lot of change to show you, so there's not really a lot of video that I can put together. Basically I've spent probably 4 solid days beveling out all the angles for all the cutouts in the deck, and I probably spent the last 4 or 5 hours just cleaning up. There's a massive clean-up operation after using the grinder for 4 days, so you know, I vacuumed all the deck, I vacuumed into the cabin, and I even vacuumed the workshop as well because there was just dust everywhere. So, you know, that was the end of a big, dirty, dusty job. So to provide some perspective, there's actually 14 cutout areas in total that I made over the deck. Now, I did a quick tally, and that equates to about 54 unique edges that I had to bevel. Some of them have more than 4 sides. And about 35 metres in total of lengths that have been beveled out. So, you know, obviously it took me a long time. I was going slowly. This is the first time I've done this process, and I'm not sure how exact I need to be with the beveling. So I did the beveling as good as I could, and I guess it's a matter of waiting to see when the laminate goes down to sort of give me some feedback on how good the bevels I made were, because if it's nice and smooth, I've done a good job. If it's all lumpy, then you know, the bevels weren't that great. So it's just a little bit difficult for me to know, you know, how perfect to make them. But anyway, we'll see that soon. But overall, I'm quite pleased. There's some areas where the beveling's done really well. I'm happy with that. It's really consistent and even and no bumps and a perfect sort of sloping face. And then there are other places where it's a little bit of a dog's breakfast. That's because where I had a good body position, I could get the grinder nice and flat, and going on my right side, I could get a lot of control, whereas other places where you're dipping it on an angle, you don't have solid footing, your sort of body's contorted a little bit. They haven't worked out so well. So the preparation's just about done. It's probably worth mentioning, as I was going around, I was doing the beveling, but also doing a final preparation and tidy up. So if there was any sort of remnants of foam left over, I'd snip them up and try to get those cutouts really nice and square. So it was sort of beveling and cleaning up together at the same time. Okay, so next steps, when I come back in next week, the first thing I'll do is probably get some plastic and start marking out the cutout so that I've got a template to start cutting out some cloth with. I'm also waiting for a big delivery of all of my fiberglass supplies, which should arrive next week. So I'm really hoping that I can get those templates cut out, some core down, and hopefully even some laminate on the deck. That would be great, because I'm really keen to see the top put back on this deck. All right, well, thank you very much for watching. Again, sorry about the short update this week. Next week, hopefully there'll be a little bit more interesting video to show you. We'll see you then. Cheers.